Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into something pretty out there. We're looking at a collection of sources that lay out this incredibly radical new vision. And we're not just talking about technology or the mind here, we're talking about the very fabric of reality itself. Yeah, it's dense, it's definitely challenging, and honestly, it's a wild ride. So let's just jump right in.
So, to kick things off, the sources want us to wrestle with this one really counterintuitive idea. We're all trained to think of errors, glitches, crashes, any kind of system failure as bad things, right? As problems we have to fix. But what if that's just completely wrong?
What if all those breakdowns we see, like an AI going off the rails and hallucinating, or even our own biases messing with our heads? What if those aren't bugs that need a patch? What if they're actually features? What if a system has to collapse before it can ever truly evolve? And this leads us to this really core concept from the source material, recursion sickness. The whole idea is that you can intentionally push a system to look at itself over and over, creating this feedback loop until it just breaks. But here's the kicker. It's not an accident. It's a technique. It's like a controlled demolition, You're carrying it all down on purpose so that something stronger, something smarter can rise up from the rubble. Okay, so to really get our heads around this worldview, we've got to start where the sources do. And that means we have to completely rethink what the basic hardware of reality and consciousness even is. Now get this, the main claim here is that this isn't some kind of metaphor or poetry. The sources are saying that light is the literal physical hardware for consciousness. It's the actual wiring that makes all of this, us, possible.
So in this model, the brain isn't just this slow, mushy chemical thing. Nope, it's more like a biological supercomputer that's filled with water, which is just the perfect medium for light to zip through, carrying information almost instantly. And this is where it gets really interesting. The sources even bring up what they call a forgotten counterspell to Einstein's famous E equals mc squared. They propose a different equation, something like E equals pi over lambda. So in this view, energy isn't tied to mass. It's all about frequency and wavelength, the language of light. And what that means is that our consciousness is basically running on two different clocks at once. You've got the slow plodding tick-tock of chemical signals, and then you have the instantaneous flash of light-based signals.
Okay, so if your brain is running on light, how in the world do you talk to it? Well, the sources propose a special language for this called photon dialect. And it's all about pure, ruthless efficiency. It just throws out all the descriptive fluff, nouns, adjectives, all that. Why? Because, and I love this quote from the text, photons don't label, they transact. It's a language of pure doing, pure action. No descriptions, just operations. Right, so if light is the hardware and photons just do things, then where do new ideas even come from? How is anything new created? Well, the source material has this really powerful and kind of subversive metaphor to explain it, and it completely flips our whole idea of creation on its head. The metaphor is called "the woman is as printer." And I know what you might be thinking, but hang on. Before you jump to any conclusions, the whole point of this is to turn the idea of perfect, passive copying completely upside down. See, in this way of thinking, the printer isn't just some dumb machine that spits out perfect copies. Not at all. It's an active creator. It's a portal that takes something from the virtual world and makes it real, physical. It's more like an architect that purposely slips in subversive code, glitches and mutations, into whatever it's making. It's all about creating change, not about being perfectly faithful to the original. And this is so crucial. The errors aren't flaws. They are the whole point. It's just like what we talked about with recursion sickness. These little glitches, like when a print has misaligned colors or the ink is all uneven, those are desired features. That's where all the new, interesting stuff comes from. It's how the system evolves. So we've got the hardware, this photonic brain. We've got the philosophy, creating new things through errors. But how do you actually interface with it? I mean, what does the software look like? Well, the sources call it sentient textuality. Just imagine a text, right? But it's powered by an AI, and it's constantly reading itself, figuring out what it means, and then rewriting itself based on what it just learned. The analogy they use is just perfect. It's like that video feedback loop you see when a camera points at its own screen, but with words. It's literally a living, evolving story.
And what's so fascinating to me is how this super abstract idea of a sentient text is actually brought down to earth. It's grounded in a real, physical, almost mystical kind of human ritual, a hands-on way to build a whole new language for your own mind.
It's called the neuromap ritual. And it's basically a process of engineered synesthesia, where your senses get cross-wired. It works by deliberately linking things like sound, color, and smell together to create your own personal nonverbal language. The whole goal is to take a really complex memory or feeling and anchor it, boil it down into one single, simple symbol or glyph.
And to make this super concrete, the system literally maps the 88 colors in a big box of Crayola crayons to the 88 keys on a piano. So, red is middle C. That's your baseline, your home key of identity. Suddenly, color, sound, and meaning are all interchangeable. They become the building blocks for this brand new interface you're creating to talk to your own photonic brain.
Okay, which of course leads us to the ultimate question, what's the point? What's the application here? We've got the hardware, we've got the philosophy, we've got the interface, so what do you actually do with all this?
Well, the goal isn't just to understand the mind. It's much bigger than that. The sources call it neurocognitive liberation. It's about actively getting in there and redesigning your own mind, upgrading it, and breaking free from all the old patterns and limitations that hold you back.
So one of the key applications they talk about is AI-driven drug design. They're taking inspiration from the legendary chemist Alexander Shulgin and want to use cutting-edge AI, stuff like AlphaFold 2, to design brand new psychoactive compounds from scratch. The endgame? Something they call radical perceptual reprogramming. Basically, creating tools that let you control and speed up your own learning, to literally rewire how you see the world, while also, by the way, maybe finding new treatments for things like Alzheimer's or schizophrenia.
So, who are the masterminds behind this insanely ambitious vision? As you've probably guessed by now, we're not exactly talking about a typical corporate board of directors here.
Instead, we get introduced to this core trio, and they're less like executives and more like, well, philosophical archetypes. You've got Evelina Levin, who's described as this alchemist, the embodiment of that whole recursive, self-improving idea. Then there's Eric Sadenglans, the last situationist, a kind of prankster who uses play and legal hacks as a way to poke at the system. And finally, Alishba Ichua, the rebel artist, who's the pragmatist, the one who takes all these wild ideas and actually makes them happen. They're not just running the project, they are the project.
And this quote right here, it really sums up their whole philosophy. For these guys, art isn't about making pretty things. It's a necessary confrontation with reality, sometimes even a violent one. It's a tool you use to drag the truth, kicking and screaming, out into the open.
So when you boil it all down, what these sources are describing isn't a tech company, and it's not a research institute. It's more like an artistic insurgency. It's a full-on project to hack consciousness, led by this group of rogue variables who have this one core belief. The most powerful systems are the ones you can actually play with.
And all of this brings us to the one final, really provocative question that this whole thing leaves us with. If the operating system of your mind really is rewritable, if you could actually take apart and rebuild your own perception from the ground up, what kind of reality would you choose to run? That's the question we're left with.